Hey, it's a good day because we're back in Tubetown and we're here with the xDuoo TA-22 DAC headphone amp preamp combo unit. Nice size, very hefty unit. I've liked the xDuoo stuff that I've tried over the years. I like that they give people an entryway into the world of tubes that isn't super intimidated, crazy expensive, or just a pain in the butt. Their build quality has really continued to evolve, I think, very nicely from some of the units I tried back in the day. Those were like solid, but this is just the manufacturing processes are a little bit more sophisticated. The finishes are a little nicer. The design's a little nicer. So I'm pretty impressed with this thing just physically in front of me. There's been a lot of reviews of this thing. I've really tried to avoid them. So either I'm about to repeat a bunch of stuff you've already heard if you're watching reviews of this, or I'm off on an island by myself with my own wacky opinions. Either way, that's great. But I don't want to spend a ton of time like going into all the details of what it is. It is a DAC amp hybrid. So it's got a solid state amp in here, and it's got a tube buffer that buffers the audio coming out of the headphone amp or out of the preamp outputs. Up front, you've got the normal culprits you'd expect to find to connect any type of headphone. And then in the back, you've got all your digital in, guy to attach your wacky USB antenna, your wacky Bluetooth antenna. You've got balanced in, single-ended in, and then you can go out single-ended, either tube buffered or just the DAC straight. So lots of nice options. Very, very convenient. The amp is powerful. I think it's about 3 watts at 32 ohms. And of course I had to throw the HE6s at it, as well as the Swissvara, just the pain in the ass headphones to drive. And you know what? It actually powered them both very successfully. The HE6 is really the biggest pain in the butt, and it did a surprisingly good job. I think that my experience with this is that I really liked the amp stage of this. These are 12 AU7s. It's a relatively popular tube. There's a bunch of stuff in production right now, and then there's lots and lots of vintage new old stock tubes to play with. So you've got a lot of options to really influence that sound profile and shape it to what makes sense to your brain, what makes sense to the source gear you're using and the headphones you're using, and just build that synergy around your taste just out of the box with the stock. And these tubes are actually branded xDuoo, which is kind of interesting. I'm sure they're sourcing them from one of the many Chinese tube manufacturers. But right out of the box, I thought this thing sounded just really nice. It had a lot of power. In the menu, you can adjust the gain between low, medium, and high. And I did find that it was very important to match the gain setting to the headphone and find that right balance. Otherwise, you ended up with something that was maybe a bit harsh if it was overdriven, or didn't have enough like grip and control if it was underdriven. So I've not always found that matters so much, but on this headphone amp, I really did find that as I moved from super easy to super hard to drive headphones. Listening to like a really, really good standalone solid state headphone amp or a really high-end tube amp, you're not quite at that level necessarily, but at the price point, I think it's a really, really nice amp offering. Just thinking about the amp. And as a tube buffer, it's really cool as well. So like using this as like a preamp tube buffer, I had a lot of fun driving then another amp with it to just kind of hear what that tube buffer was doing. And that was a fun way to sort of understand what different 12 AU7 sounded like, right? Really sort of take other things out of the mix. What I didn't love was the DAC portion. And to be fair, I don't really typically like Delta Sigma DACs. For me, it's just there's a bit of edge, there's a bit of glare, there's sort of a lack of fluidity. It just feels very staccato. It's got a lot, it's very pronounced in the upper mids, really pushing that sharpness. You could throw a tube in here that would push, like calm that down, but when I fed this thing with other DACs that I like much more, I was just really happy with the amp portion and really felt like the DAC was was not, for me, as satisfying. Just sort of had a dryness to it. And honestly, I find that sound to be a little bit headache inducing. But maybe you like that. Like, everyone's hearing is different, and some people enjoy that, like, very, like I said, upper mid forward, super crisp, Delta Sigma sound. And it does have like 2 ESS Sabre DAC chips, so it's not like a slouch, but I don't know if it's the implementation or just that I just don't dig that typology. But for me, the DAC didn't really sing. Now, it wasn't bad. It's just that I liked the amp so much, it kind of bummed me out that I didn't like the DAC as much, because it would be so great to have it as just a standalone package. But be very reasonable to get this as an all-in-one unit. Borrow a buddy's DAC. If you like it more over time, you might want to upgrade to a different DAC and swap it out. But the convenience factor is there, and that's awesome. And obviously having Bluetooth, having the built-in DAC, having the optional inputs, it's a pretty compelling package, honestly. I have a handful of 12 AU7s that have built up over the years from various things. And I tried a bunch, and pretty much everything I tried was much better than what came stock in the box, and then really took the amp up a level. Also checked out these Apos Ray tubes. These are tubes that Apos is branding as their own. I'm sure they're sourcing from some manufacturer, but they have a lot of claims about the sort of quality oversight that they're putting on it, and how tightly they're matching the tubes and all that. These are very good sounding tubes, and they price out at about what I think you'd pay for some very nice or some nice new old stock tubes from a reputable dealer. That being said, these are new tubes. You go click a button, they go in your cart, they ship to your house. You can return them. Like, you don't have any of the headaches of buying old tubes, which are numerous. So I can say that, and it's a little tough, right? Because you're going, okay, you're saying this thing's a great value at $500. Then you're saying I should buy a $179 pair of tubes to put in a $500 unit. That doesn't make any sense. And to a lot of folks, that won't make any sense. And I get that. And maybe if you're interested in experimenting with tubes and you haven't become a complete insane tube person, the compromise would be some of the other newly available stuff that might run you $60, $80 a pair, or even just trying your luck at playing the game on, eBay or other sites of hunting down, various old pairs, and giving them a try. It's a little tough when you need pairs of tubes to kind of find super sneaky deals. So that's just a consideration. Anyway, summing it up, it's a very nice looking unit. I think it's got a very serviceable DAC, although it doesn't fit my sound profile. I think it drives a lot of headphones really nicely with a really full articulate sound, and then having that tube buffer to be able to shape it. Really not a lot to complain about, especially at the price point. I think that's going to wrap it up. I'm Soundcraft, signing out.